This is creating equitable and enriching learning environments for all Los Angeles Unified School District students. Mr. Kaiser, that's your resolution 42. You want to move it? Mr. Kaiser moved it. Is there a second?
I second it.
Thank you, Dr. Vladovic.
Would you like to offer an amendment?
Yes. On 42. Go ahead.
I'm sorry.
Ms.
Did I have the
Martinez.
floor? I did. So I like to, I'm sorry, Mr. Zimmer? Mr. Kaiser.
Is this a different version?
I don't know if my amendment, I'm not sure my amendment is included in this. It shouldn't be. This is yours?
Let's read it. Go ahead.
So resolve further that the board directs the superintendent to design a 3-year strategy to increase funding for for arts education and integrated arts instruction. That's my amendment.
Where is that?
Sounds fine.
Wait, is it in? We just received something. Can someone tell us what is the difference here?
It's not in the new version.
So,
It's not in the new version of the resolution. This is my amendment that I'm bringing to you
Okay.
just now.
Say that one more time.
I accept the amendment as
Thank you, Mr. Kaiser.
an expansion of our support of the arts.
Okay.
Dr.
Mr. Kaiser,
I should ask all three, Mr. Vladovic and Mr. Zimmer. Thank you.
Mr. Kaiser, what is the change in this new amendment that this new version that we received?
I can't give you an answer to that. I need to see which one
Okay, I just
Got here.
received one. I'm interested in what the change is.
I can speak to that. Ms. Board President,
Yep.
would you like me to?
Sure.
There is there is some adjusted language on page 2 dealing with classified employees. You'll find it in the third resolved clause, and that is, and then it's underlined. Ms. Martinez, and then Ms. Martinez has just added a resolve clause on arts funding.
And Mr. Kaiser, can I add, I'd like to see what it would look like if we put a PSW on every school site. I wanted to add a norm for PSWs.
sounds good.
Wonderful. Okay, anybody else? Any other amendments? Maybe we need one of those technology texts now that we're getting. Standard English learners? Sure, Ms. Lamont, what would you like? What do you want, but what do you want oh, a plan for standard English learners. Oh, a whereas. You're going to fix that? Okay. A whereas? Okay, and I believe there are speakers for this item. Can we call on speakers now? Welcome speaker number 1 to item 42. Is there a speaker number 1? Okay, welcome.
I'm going to share my time with one another parent. My name is Marta Sanchez. I'm a parent and community organizer, parent trainer, and a product of the adult education program of Los Angeles School District. I want to support board members Kaiser, Vladovic, and Zimmer resolution because over the last 10 years of working with parents at diverse and multiple schools throughout the school district, I learned that small classes matter. You learn more, you get more chances to get one-on-one instruction, you ask more times, you have more chances to ask more times to the teacher when you are not understanding the subject. You have more times to, and more opportunities to be heard by the teacher. You get less competition, more support from your classmates, more chances to get to know your classmates. Your teacher and your teacher get to know you better. I also support this resolution because when it comes to discipline, it is easier to discipline your students. Now that we have the positive behavior support, we can get more chances to be better implemented. And I know that not just because I'm an involved parent, but because I was a student too. And being in a small class helped me a lot to be successful and to graduate. So I strongly support this resolution, and I appreciate the opportunity to keep the classes smaller.
Mi nombre es María Mijares.
Yes.
Yo pertenezco a la escuela Maya Angelou porque tengo un hijo ahí en la escuela Maya Angelou.
I'm part of Maya Angelou School. I have a son attending that school.
Yo apoyo a las clases que sean reducidas. Por
I support
ejemplo,
reduced classes.
las clases son muy saturadas, 50, 45 o 55 niños es demasiado. No hay espacio, no hay espacio donde se sientan esos niños, no hay. Están recargados sobre la pared, están sentados ahí. ¿Cómo van a aprender así? Demasiados niños. Quisiera que ustedes fueran y vieran eso. Yo he ido, yo voy y veo.
And my concern deals with overpopulation. There's a classroom overcrowding. We have up to 40, 50 students per class, some standing, some leaning against the wall. There's no room for learning in this way, and I would really like you to go and see for yourselves.
Con este sistema, el alumno no va a recibir nada de la misma educación que si fuera más reducido.
With this system, a student couldn't get much from education, as opposed to a system where there would be less students.
Yo salí a buscar el voto por la proposición 30. Yo voté por ella.
I went to seek for votes for Proposition 30. I voted in favor
Gracias.
of this
Para que las
proposition
clases se redujeran.
Gracias.
for reduced classes.
That's speaker number one. Muchas gracias.
Okay.
Speaker number two. Muchas gracias. Speaker number two. Welcome. Welcome. You can come to the mic.
Okay, good. I like a support here. Good afternoon, dedicated school board members. Hello, my name is Janice Luckstein, and for 37 years I was an English drama and ELL teacher at Carnegie Middle School in Carson, and now I'm the Substitute South Calling Area Chapter Chair. As my friend and Harbor Area Board Member Dr. Vladovic said, I look like a firecracker. And yes, I am ready to celebrate the 4th of July with the good news that we've got with the passage of Proposition 30 that I helped phone bank for, and I know many of you, I think all of you supported. Our funding is finally coming in September. Yay! Cheer! Come on! Yay! From the state of California. And I agree with the UTLA treasurer, David Lyle, and Warren Fletcher, that we must rehire the 600 or so RIFTA teachers who have been working as day-to-day subs. The money from our budget, the money we're getting from the state of California, we must also place into teaching positions the hundreds of displaced teachers who have just been working at schools, again, as subs. Cheer, cheer, come on. Yay! Money from our budget must be spent to place the hundreds of teachers who have not been in full-time positions. These veteran teachers need to be placed, and we need to provide this, as they've talked about, to help reduce the number of students in the classroom so they can get individual instruction, to have their questions answered, to be called on, to get individual tutoring from the teacher as needed. And I agree with the parents and you that there is a possibility that we can have 100% graduation, which is your goal, which is my goal, which I think is every parent's and teacher's goal. And hopefully it's the students' goal too, but they've got to get there. And if you bring back your PSA workers, I understand you're about 60 PSA workers short. That will certainly help. So today you can take the first steps to help to reach that goal by voting for this proposition, which is a long title, Creating Equitable and Enriching Learning Environments for All LAUSD Students and Teachers. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Speaker number three.
Good afternoon. My name is Odilia Mendez. I am a current student at Maya Angelou Community High School, and I am a part of ACE. The main reason why I'm here is because I believe that we should have class reduction for students, because it's not a good thing to have so many students in one class. This year, when it was my junior year, in my AP Statistics class, we had over 40 students, and we had no seats available. Sometimes we ended up sitting on the floor. There were students coming in and out, and so because of so many students that weren't in the class, we had to start our lectures late. And also this year, for my AP Spanish class, there were more than 60 students for just that class itself, and it ended up taking so much time that we had to divide it into 2 separate classes, which still was big because we still had no seats available. And for my freshman year at Westchester High School, I was in the honors 9th grade English class, and what I expected from that class was to have lectures, discussions about novels, intensive writing, hands-on projects, but because the class was so packed, I didn't get none of that. I had to sit in corners, read with my group silently, write book reports, which didn't help me at all. And I believe that if we have smaller classes, the students can interact with the teachers, build friendships among the teachers, get along, and there's many of us that are hands-on learners, like me, visual learners, and so forth. And this will, if we have smaller classes, this will help us, more graduates, more students who will get the help they need. And, well, now I will give my time to the ma'am right here.
Thank you.
Buenas tardes.
30 segundos.
Sí, rapidito. Mi nombre es Antonieta García. Yo vivo en la misma comunidad de Maya Angelou, en el otro blog. Tengo una hija en LA Academy y estoy apoyando esto, que haya más personal, tanto de maestros como de limpieza. Y el señor Vladimir lo he estado localizando porque queremos una junta con él. Y
el señor Vladovich.
Oh, él.
Sí, el señor del Distrito 7.
I'm here also from Maya Angelou School, and I have a child in LA Academy, and also we were trying to set up a meeting with Mr. Vladovich.
Y le tengo un anuncio para usted, necesitamos hablar con usted.
And I have an announcement for you, we need to talk to you.
Le hemos mandado por correo electrónico.
We send you emails.
Y estamos esperando su respuesta porque queremos una junta.
And we are waiting for your response because parents from LA Academy are expecting a response.
Okay,
from
muchas
you.
gracias. Speaker number 4.
Hi, Mel House, elementary physical educator. I'm back. There was an amendment to this little doohickey here about putting art in. I think it would be great if we could put PE in there too. I think all of you would agree that PE is important, that elementary physical education is important, and I'm sure many of you have been hearing from parents and students lately about the importance of elementary physical education and the upcoming supposed loss of the P-TIP grant that funds what we have left, which is 6 elementary physical educators. I would hope that at the very least we could maintain those 6 people and not obliterate the elementary PE program, because if those 6 people are gone, our elementary program is gone with it. So those are my thoughts. The children of Los Angeles are in an obesity and type 2 diabetes epidemic, and they need your leadership and they need your support to keep elementary physical education. Thank you.
Next speaker, speaker number 5. Speaker number 6. Welcome.
Thank you. Esteemed board members, Madam Chair and Superintendent Deasy, I work for you and I work with you. I'm here to thank you for making this board resolution for the three-year strategy development and implementation. And the reason why I'm here is on behalf of school counselors. As a board member, when the plan is brought to you, please note that as counselors, we are phasing in a 3-year different graduation plan up until the class of 2017. That's why it's so important to have more school counselors. College counselors have been cut, and this is a specialty. As we prepare students for the Common Core and A through G classes, we need more college counselors. We need more counselors to help these students graduate and to excel and apply for college. Nowadays, counselors at pilot schools and charter schools are fulfilling positions of PSAs, PSWs, social workers, deans, and the master schedulers. They also are fulfilling credit clerk positions. All these positions have been cut. So the question to answer will be to see how this 3-year plan facilitates equity in enrichment as we fulfill these new positions at all school sites. In closing, I would like to read you this letter from Mitchell West, who is a high school student who couldn't stay, unfortunately. And he says, we need PSA counselors in our schools because we need someone who will motivate kids to come to school. The PSA counselors at my school, Roy Ball Learning Center, came up with attendance competitions between advisory classes to help motivate them. Every student needs a PSA counselor. Eric Buenas and Sally Stevens motivated Roy Ball and bought higher attendance rates. We also need academic counselors in our school because we need someone who will guide students on a path to graduate high school with all of their GED and A through G requirements completed. LAUSD has the highest dropout rate, and many students who were with me in 9th grade dropped out. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next speaker.
I'm Michael Morrow, a product of LAUSD, and one of my honors as a Hollywood High School graduate was 3 years of perfect attendance. I'm generally in support of this measure. Right now, we've had 6 kids. Right now, we have 2 going into 12th grade. I gave them both the CHISPE exam just to see if they could get out early. My daughter doesn't want to. She passed it with flying colors. My new foster son didn't and would like to stay, although there is a move to do a push-out because yesterday was his 18th birthday. I might ask for some help on that. He was an English learner, designated at some point. Many of you are my heroes, and I pray for continued knowledge and wisdom and discernment on what you're doing. I have been in the sun for a long time, so it was this morning kind of hot since I was here early as 8:15, and so I'm sort of recovering from that, but kind of wish to share the fact that I wear a couple of hats. For 32 years, I've been working with the school district, and my position with the school district has been one of distinct importance. I put in a lot of extra time, not just hours, but days. In terms of doing this type of work, there are a lot of people who are qualified, but we're down in terms of PSA 60 to 70 positions. I would recommend a norm and perhaps 1,000 or 2,000 PSA counselor for every 2,000 students.
What are you talking
Important. Thank you for the PSW recommendations, and I'm speaking for Health and Human Services in general. We don't need any more disproportionate cuts as have happened in the past. 3 years ago, like of 310, we had 110 of us cut. 2 years ago, it was about 91. Thanks, we didn't have the cuts. The furloughs were taken away. The students and the parents need our efforts as pupil services and attendance counselors, PSWs, librarians, PE, other school secondary counselors, very important. When school staffs are disproportionately cut, it's difficult for schools to know what is going on. There's been so many changes in the last several years with the last 2 superintendents. Superintendent Daisy, you've got a tough job. I support this resolution. Thank you, Bennett Kaiser. Thank you, Steve Zimmer, and for Dr. Vladimir. I'm sure Dr. Vladimir wasn't implying that the Russians invented the pencil. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Next speaker, speaker number 7. Is there another speaker? Welcome. What number are you?
No tenemos número, queremos pedir permiso para apoyar esta idea.
We don't have a
A
number.
ver
We'd
si hay
like
número 7 primero.
to have.
Is there a number 7 in the audience? There you go. You are it.
Sí, usted es el 7.
Sí. Buenas tardes a todos. Agradecemos esta oportunidad porque realmente queremos apoyar.
Good afternoon. We
esta
thank you
nueva
for this opportunity because we want to support this new idea.
Mi nombre es Yvonne Lausel y represento Padres Unidos de la ciudad de Southgate.
And my name is Yvonne Lausel, and I represent Parents Unidos of the city of Southgate.
Una de las cosas más importantes al reducir el número de estudiantes en cada salón es que se va a aprovechar al 100% la educación.
One of the most important things of reducing the student-to-teacher ratio in each classroom is that the education of the student is going to increase 100%.
La comunicación que vaya a haber entre el maestro y el alumno se va a aprovechar de una manera más justa.
And also there will be a more just communication between the student and the teacher, and that will be taken advantage of.
El tiempo que se utilice dentro del salón de clases será más productivo y cada alumno puede estar en mejor comunicación con los maestros.
And the time inside the classroom will be more productive, and all students will be in communication with their teachers.
Esperamos que esta proposición realmente se lleve a cabo y lo felicito por haberla traído aquí al board.
And we
Muchas
hope
gracias.
this proposal will be approved, and we look forward to working with you.
Good afternoon, Madam President, Mr. Daisy, members of the board. My name is Maria Parra, Padres Unidos rep, and I am here to support this proposition from Mr. Kaiser, Mr. Bladerbeer, and Mr. Zimmer. And I am 23rd years of being volunteer in the Southgate community, and I see how the classroom increased the number of the students. I am impact with the Southgate Middle School with 5,000 students over there, and how we work in order to make those students, the education be successful for them. And we don't see now because the classroom is still full of students. We have less students at school, but we have more students in the classroom. And this can work with the students. For teachers, when they review the homework, they cannot because they have 40, 35, 45 students at the classroom. They have a minimum time. They have a lot of things to do in the classroom in order to give them all the information a student for the subject they are learning, and how they supposed to teach the students if they don't have enough time for each or one student. This is the reason I support this proposition. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Board members, I have a question about the resolution. I'm interested in why did we pick 2007, 2008 as the representative for the inner city and the east side? I know class size was way larger and not even acceptable in 2008. Why aren't we looking at maybe 2001, 2003, some kind of, so we have choices about what we can do? I'm asking the authors of the motion.
Well, I looked at that year, and that was before the major budget cuts occurred. And I'm not asking to roll back body for body. I'm just saying roll back the ratio, because we've lost students since then. But as I've spoken before, I'll give you an example. And first, we don't have enough gardeners right now with all of our new schools to clean the schools. To maintain them. Monica, another example would be that we're having difficulty. We've got some schools, elementary schools, that are 1,000 kids, and they have a principal. And yet the new evaluation system, if you do 1/3 of your staff or 20% of your staff, there's no way. We just heard how our procurement people work day and night. We're going to kill the schools. There's safety issues. And then I recently went to a high school class and an algebra class, and I felt really bad for little Johnny in the middle row. He couldn't go to the bathroom because there was no more room in that classroom. And so,
you ask why that date. That was the date before all of the budget cuts, and I just thought we ought to look at ratios, not actual numbers, ratios, and that's why, because I feel our schools aren't staffed adequately.
I agree with you, but would you be willing to accept like multiple years? Because we could probably agree that in 2007, class size was still too high.
Oh,
right?
I totally agree. It's a starting point for a discussion.
Couldn't we ask the superintendent of what it would look like for at various points when class size makes sense? Because we know that in 2007-8, it's still too high.
We could, as long as we don't go forward beyond that date, because all we've done since that date is cut.
Right. But
I like that.
So I welcome, I think, so Mr. Vladovic, the issue is, I want to support class size. I'm not convinced that 2007-8 is the class size I think we should shoot for. I think we need to, we're going to make choices about how to spend money and how to put this district on the path. Certainly maybe that, that's why I want to see let's go back to what we could do, or what can we do? What does 2007 look like? What does 2003 look like? Because in my district, we've just been way too high, even before 2007. So I welcome I'm not going to amend the motion because I understand what the folks want to do, but I welcome your thinking around what class size makes sense, because we know in 2007-8 it's still too high. And then I welcome the thinking around, we have different kinds of schools. So all schools aren't alike. We have 6 schools, and some pilot schools have 25-1 because that's what they put their money into. How will we help the variety of schools that we have? I'm not opposed to this conversation at all. I just want to be able to acknowledge that schools have worked hard in some places to drive down their class size, and they're looking for more support services. Ms. Gallatin.
I just have some questions on, I'm trying to get clarity on some of the things in here. In the second, third, and fifth resolves, it talks about returning schools to the same levels as 2007, 2008. Does levels mean ratio? Yes. Okay, so it's just the wrong word here? Yes. Okay.
Can we change it?
I'm just wondering if levels means ratio. I'm just trying to find out, because to me, level is not the same word. So that's fine.
It's ratio. At least that was my intent.
I'm just wondering, because I didn't see it in here. There's ratio used at one point, but levels is used, and I didn't know if they're being used interchangeably or what. So levels means ratio?
And that's what happens when 3 people write the motion.
Trust me, I understand. I guess I have one in the final resolved, on the third page, I guess. I assume, like in the previous resolution, implementation means feasibility? Yes. Okay. So, then that goes...
On the feasibility of implementing, yeah.
I'm
No, I agree with you, Tamar.
What I'm just trying to figure out here, because as Dr. Vladovic eloquently said, this was 3 different bakers in the kitchen. Is this asking the superintendent to come back to the board with ideas, budget implications, facilities implications, curriculum implications of doing these things? Or is this the board saying these are our priorities with the new LCFF funding, and superintendent, go figure out how we do this?
Well, my take was to bring them back. It's a 3-year picture to look, to bring it back and then have that robust debate, because some of us may differ on first priority, second priority, or they may be someone, say like me, who'd want an eclectic approach where we take a little of each. I don't know. There's only so much money.
Right.
And if we did everything we say we're going to do, as Dr. Dacey and I were just joking, it will take about 15 minutes, maybe not that long, before the county steps in and takes us over, because we don't have the money to pay for all of these. But for the last 6 years, all we've talked about was cutting. Now I want to talk about how we can restore programs for kids. So he'd bring all of this and we'd have our robust discussion.
I guess, so I've two, one, so I'm just two more. So what this is asking the superintendent to bring us back different options moving forward once we know more about LCFF and what's going on with that money, so then the board can have the conversation with the community and with our schools and with our partners trying to figure out how we're going to allocate those dollars?
I would say that we will have that discussion when he brings back the report. But I've already surveyed many of my community and most of the teachers that I work with in the classified. So I think they haven't set a priority. They just said they want this to happen.
I understand, but we of the board haven't had that conversation.
Oh, absolutely,
yet.
and we'll have it, and
Okay.
when he brings it back.
And then kind of lastly is just, I would make the same argument that Mr. Zimmer and Mr. Kaiser and Dr. Vodovic that you made when tabling my resolution, is that if you want to wait till the LCFF accountability rules come out so we know how we're supposed to spend the money, that would be the time to start having this conversation. But just like if we want to wait to find out what the rules Sacramento is attaching to the money before we even start thinking about how we're going to spend it, then that's what we should do. I happen to think that's silly because we should be having that conversation now, but I think that goes for many things. If we're going to start thinking and brainstorming and open conversations about this, it's not just what are our priorities, but just as important is how are we going to fund them. And I just think that putting our head in the sand and pretending that LCFF doesn't exist unless we like one, is short-sighted. And the fact that this doesn't have anything in here about LCFF and how the accountability rules are going to be implemented is just a little confusing to me because I think it's leaving out a big piece of it. But if all this is asking for the beginning of a conversation, then I understand.
Well, I think
it's
a little bit more than that. It's asking to come back with some ideas.
But it's not a plan. This is just the beginning of a conversation about some of these ideas.
Well, it's now putting them in writing. I think we've narrowed it down a little, but it's not going to come here and just what are we going to talk about? The 3 lights that are out? No.
No, but
we're going to have
then what I asked, then that's a different answer than the one I just had. God bless you.
Thank you.
She's a multiple sneezer. I'm just trying to, if the schools just as you said, I've been also surveying the schools and the parents and the principals in my district, and they're not leading with class size reduction. I'm just saying, so I'm just wondering, is this saying this is the board's priority, is class size reduction? Or is this saying, superintendent, class size reduction, restoring positions to a previous, more acceptable level, increasing enrollment in adult and early ed, et cetera, are the board's priorities, and we want you to help us figure out how to move forward from here. I'm just trying to figure out what this says,
well,
because
what
it
says
uses different language in each resolve.
I understand, and it's one of the 3 bakers. I truly believe we should he should come back to us with some ideas, some direction, encompassing the thoughts that are here. I also respect your right to present your views at that time. But right now, we have nothing. At least we'll have something in front of us to move forward. That's mine. But you may want to ask the other bakers.
Thank you. Yeah. One thing that Board Member Zimmer and Vladovic and I have in common is we've all been teachers. And we know that in a classroom, it's a lot easier to teach, a lot easier for the kids to learn when there are fewer of them rather than many of them. I taught in classrooms with over 40 kids and found that when I went to City of Angels and was one-on-one with my students, that students who were getting D's and F's all of a sudden were getting A's and B's and C's. Students were graduating who wouldn't have graduated otherwise. Now I realize it's not feasible for us to have one-on-one teaching through the whole school district, but somewhere between 45 kids and 1, there's a number where there's an optimum and the kids will learn and the teachers will teach. This resolution wasn't meant to be a be-all and end-all. What it's asking for is for the superintendent to make a proposal, since he's familiar with the budget, he's familiar with the educational issues, the teaching issues, and to make some proposals that are within the budget of Proposition 30 and the local funding formula. And, you know, if I want to say to people in the audience that, you know, this is not meant to be an exhaustive list. If the superintendent comes up with a part of it with a proposal to include PE classes, we'll include PE classes as well. It's not. We didn't want to have a document. It's already 3 pages. We didn't want to have a document that was going to be the size of a phone book. So I hope that we can go ahead and pass this resolution and go on with our business.
Okay, so that sounded to me like, no, this isn't setting the priorities. This is welcoming the proposal. Mr. Zimmer and then Ms. Lamont.
This is, I think, the 2 resolutions that are going to pass today. The issue that very rightly brings up extended year, extended learning time, is certainly something that we could not have considered during the depths of the budget crisis. In fact, criminally, we cut our learning time during the depths of the budget crisis. And this resolution looks at another critical area and calls for the superintendent to present back to this board a balanced plan for what this would look like if we were able to significantly significantly address what we call the ratios, the staffing ratios, from class size to counselor ratio to administrative ratio to building and grounds workers to clerical ratios to the way that schools operated before the devastation of the cuts. Now, it doesn't mean that we go back in time to a time of less achievement, to a time of less urgency, to a time when we still had 50% of our schools on criminal year-round calendars. We are in a new era, and we fully asked the superintendent to come back with this plan, not to go back in time, but to look at all the ways that we've come significantly on many of the most urgent issues facing public education that this board has addressed in the past 4 years, but has not been able to support with the full funding that each of these initiatives demands and deserves. So I want to be very, very clear and call out directly about the whisper campaign that is already taking place that somehow pits this as adult issues and other issues as kids' issues. And let me be very, very direct. When you are talking about issues around counselor ratios, and having a counselor ratio right now that is 800 to 1. And I've run into some pushback from allies when I talk about the A through G implementation. I want to be very clear when I say that I believe that the A through G implementation is a civil rights issue the exact same way that the building program is a civil rights issue. And that if we don't devote our full urgency and all of our energy towards making sure that the A through G is real for all students in this district, in every geographic zip code of this district, in every corner of this district, in every classroom in this district, then we don't deserve to be here. So when we talk about implementing the A through G, and then we turn around and say, yes, but our counselor to student ratio is 800 to 1. That's a civil rights issue. When the young woman comes up here from Maya Angelou who doesn't have a seat in her classroom after all that we've done to build seats in classrooms for every neighborhood. Because her class size is 42 to 1. 42 to 1. That is also not an adult issue. She was up here. It's her issue. It's a kid's issue. It's an education issue. Making sure that bathrooms are clean, accessible, and open to students every day on every campus is a learning issue. It's a basic rights issue. It takes reducing the B&G worker ratio to make sure that it happens. That's what it is. Making sure that there is a restoration of M&O workers so that heaters are repaired in classrooms, so that students don't have to be sitting in their winter coats through our months, even here in Los Angeles. That's a kid's issue. And so I say really strongly to everyone who wants to suggest that somehow class size is an issue that's solely about jobs, that it's beyond, truthfully, what my colleague said. Of course, I've taught classes of 45, 47, 48. You are not able as a teacher, I'm not talking about workload. I worked weekends, I worked all night. I taught hard every year I taught. But you just get to give more individualized, personalized attention. You get to know the stories, the voices, the history when there are less students in your classroom. That just is. And if you don't believe that, and you don't believe me, and you don't trust me, which is fine, trust the choices the parents have made. Because here are some websites of charter schools. And on the front page of every website is class size. 20 to 1, 22 to 1, Larchmont, Citizens of the World, New Los Angeles Charter, City Charter, Green Dot, Puck. 20 to 1. I'll clean it up. 20 to 1. Class size. Front and center in their instructional program. And here's another one. Flint Ridge Prep Academy. Private schools. The elite of the elite. 12 to 1 on their front page. So, if you see 12 to 1. If there's a suggestion that somehow this doesn't matter, turn to where our parents, as we've said in many other contexts in this room, the sanctity of parent choice and what parents, the message that parents are sending us. They are sending us messages about our instruction, and we'll talk about that, and that's important. They are sending us messages about conditions in schools. But if they weren't also sending a message about class size, it wouldn't be on the front of every charter school website. Last thing I want to say is this. We talk about the crisis, the economic crisis, the school budget crisis, as if it was some natural disaster, like it was like Hurricane Sandy or Oklahoma. It wasn't a natural disaster. It was a humanly created disaster. It was a direct effect of greed, and it was a direct attack on our children by people who don't care about our children. We have to be as human about the reparation and repair from this crisis as those who caused the crisis were controlled by greed and inhumanity. This is a first step, but let us be guided. Let us be guided by what is right for children. And I am very open to the idea that we do have to have a balanced approach that includes extending the school day, extending the school year, with balancing out our ratios. It's not one or the other. It may be a balance, and we are going to have to compromise. But do not let the same forces that caused this crisis divide us between adults and children as we try to recover from the crisis.
Ms. Lamont.
Madam Chair, I had a lot to say, but after Mr. Zimmer stated everything so eloquently, I call for the question on this resolution.
So I just have to, Mr. Zimmer, I think one of the reasons that people have a hard time is that this doesn't talk about achievement. And so certainly, no, it doesn't call out specifically and increase achievement. And I understand that, go ahead, let's call the question.
On the item as amended.
I know you were.
Ms. Gallatin. A no vote. Mr. Kaiser. Yes. Yes vote. Ms. Lamont.
Yes.
Thank you. Ms. Martinez. Yes vote. Dr. Vladovic. Yes. Yes vote. Mr. Zimmer.
Yes.
Yes vote. Ms. Garcia.
No.
Yes.
Okay, board members, if we could go to,
Item passes 6-1.